Globalization is with us already for decades, so to speak, if not even longer. But in recent times, we've had the pandemic. We've seen the supply chain problems caused partly by the pandemic and the war with respect to the Ukraine. And also that is now creating all kinds of political debates and, of course, also debates for the economy itself, whether or not globalization is at its end. What we observe is that there is a general tendency of globalization to increase over time. So it's on the one hand a slow process. On the other hand, we see that it's very often triggered by larger events. Like for instance, the end of the Cold War, which basically integrated former communist countries into the globalized economy. And we saw that also subsequently with countries like China and India, who basically became important economic powers. What actually disturbed this overall process was the financial crisis. The financial crisis was such a big shock and it created so much new developments inside, in particular, individual economies, that this actually reduced the speed at which the world became more and more globalized. The financial crisis actually triggered more inward-oriented policies in many countries around the world. We've seen that, for instance, in Trump having its America First type of policy and creating basically the trade war with China. This all led to a reduction in the speed in which the world globalizes.
Globalization goes beyond trade and trade wars. We look at social and political globalization. For example, how open is a government to other countries in terms of how many embassies are there from other countries, or how many NGOs are located there. It's also important to look how connected countries are in terms of how many international students are there or how many international tourists are there.
Well, I think there is this danger that we will see geographic regions basically politically confronting each other. That is not necessarily good for globalization. But on the other hand, we're also talking about other phenomena, namely that our supply chains needs to be more resilient. And resilience doesn't mean that we reduce globalization. It simply means that we increase the network of potential suppliers. So it's not necessarily the case that globalization goes down, but it will probably be of a different kind than we've seen in the last decades.